Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser, and it is a Victory Monday, thankfully, after the Seahawks absolutely curb stomp the New Orleans Saints 44-13 in a game that was never a game. Seahawks led from pretty much wire to wire, and man, you got to feel for the Saints, man, to come into Seattle in a game that, if anything, they felt like was probably their best chance to show up for a little while, and then have to go to play the Buffalo Bills next. Rough time to be a New Orleans Saints fan, but we're not New Orleans Saints fans around here. We are Seattle Seahawks fans, and I will tell you something, folks. I'm also a Seattle Mariners fan. And so I'm not going to spend time on this particular show talking about the Mariners, other than to say, man, what a fun weekend that was. Oh, God. Houston Astros are the 49ers of Major League Baseball. Cannot stand them. It was so great to see them go down and go down hard. But I am going to probably do some Mariners shows. And so I'll do my best. It'll come on the channel. I'll make it clear that they're Mariners shows, but just know there's going to be some Mariners content that probably comes up over the next, however long this goes with that team, because I'm pretty pumped. And I know a lot of the folks in the community are as well. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested, or if you're not. As far as the Seahawks go, man, this morning after show, as we're kind of getting into the rhythm of things, I'm going to try to do this roughly, 10 a.m. every Monday after the Seahawks play, after I've written my morning after article, which is up there already on hawkblogger.com. Highly recommend you go check that out. That's where I kind of take a deep breath after getting a night's sleep and write really what my reflections are on the game. But also after Mike McDonald does his 9:30 show with Brock and Salk, which he just finished, just in case there's any news that comes out of that. And then we'll do this show and we'll hang out together and talk about the game that was and some of the things that, have come up for all of us on kind of reflection. So, I didn't think there was anything particularly of note on the Mike McDonald show, so I'm not going to spend much time breaking that down. I'm most interested personally about Robbie Oots and this ankle injury and what that status is. They asked about whether or not any of the guys are going to be available. Devin Witherspoon, Nicky Manwari, Julian Love, Zach Charbonnet are going to be available for this week. Mike McDonald, I think, feels a little burned by trying to say that Nicky Manwari and Devin Witherspoon might practice this week or last week, and then they didn't. And so he's a guy that I think we all know by now. He likes to do what he says. And so he doesn't like there to be a big gap between his words and reality. And so he doesn't like prognosticating about injuries and then being wrong. So I think he's probably going to go back into his little shell and give us very little information, which he already does about injuries, but I think he's going to go back to probably giving less. We'll see. I am cautiously optimistic about some of the availability of those guys. In the media room on Friday, I was curious. I thought it was noteworthy. I went to the locker room after we did our press conference with Mike McDonald, and I saw Devin Witherspoon in his jersey, and I saw Nicky Manwari in his jersey. And then later for the practice report participation, it showed that they were limited participants. And in the photos from Edwin Hooper, who is awesome photographer over there for the Seahawks, had some pictures of Manwari and Witherspoon going through practice. And then we heard from Mike McDonald yesterday that Witherspoon gave it a go before the game to see if he could do it, ended up deciding not to. So I think he's close. I think they're close. And what's really, really exciting about that is I don't think anyone feels like they have to be back for the Seahawks to have a real shot to win this game against the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are a good team. I'm not saying they're a great team, but they're a good team. And it's a road game, and it's never easy to do. But give credit give credit to a lot of different people for Derion Kendrick being picked up and added to this roster by John Schneider, claims him from rival Los Angeles Rams, who, by the way, don't have the deepest cornerback room for my estimation. And sure enough, Ahkello Witherspoon, their top corner, is lost for probably the year with a collarbone injury. And they don't have Derion Kendrick to turn to, who they would like to be able to turn to at this point. They had to put Emmanuel Forbes out there in much more of a role than they probably would have liked to. And he got burned by A.J. Brown multiple times in what became like a difference-making drive for the Eagles. So there's this interesting chain of events. And now you've got Derion Kendrick absolutely balling out in his 2 games. He like, it's not a stretch. It's actually like a fact that he should have 4 interceptions through 2 games. And I talked to Derion Kendrick after the Steelers game in the locker room. And if you remember, I played the sound for you guys. He was like, I'm going to go on the jugs machine. I'm not going to drop, another one. And then you heard him yesterday. He was pissed. He was happy he got the pick, but he was pissed that he dropped another one. And so his level of play is really encouraging. And remember, he's doing this at the nickel corner position, but he is naturally an outside corner. So you've got flex there with him. And all of a sudden you're looking at that Seahawks cornerback room and you're like, whoa, like Devin Witherspoon isn't even playing. You bring him back. You've got Reek Woolen, who, by the way, is playing well. And now you add to that Josh Jobe and Derion Kendrick, and you still got Shaquille Griffin in the background. And it's a pretty interesting room all of a sudden. And I think you got to give Mike McDonald some credit and the coaching staff and Carl Brooks credit for kind of getting him ready to go on like pretty much short notice. I think they've game planned in a way where Kendrick is not being asked to do probably nearly as much as what Devin Witherspoon's asked to do in that position. I've noticed a lot more what seem to be zone coverages. And so there's a lot of zone drops, not as much man for him to have to handle those things. And then give Kendrick credit. He's got a really good instincts. And Mike McDonald kind of just talked about that yesterday, about how excited he was about the details that Kendrick just seems to get and the coaching points that he just has a feel for, and recognizing splits, knowing where a receiver's probably going to go, where a quarterback's going to try to go at the ball, and just being in the right spot. Like, that's big. And that's how you get these interceptions in these zone coverages. Is a lot of it is instinct and intellect about being able to diagnose what's about to come. So I think it's very, very big news. Anytime you can get quality cornerback play, to get it from 2 guys, Derion Kendrick and Josh Jobe, who you didn't trade for, you didn't have to give up draft picks for, you didn't have to pay big money for. You just signed them essentially off the street, and they're 2 of the better cornerbacks on your team and in the league right now, like by almost any measure. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, do I really think Derion Kendrick is one of the best cornerbacks in the league? No, not yet. Like, he's got a long way to go. Is Josh Jobe playing like one of the best cornerbacks in the league? Yes. Like, I think through 3 games, it's no question he is breaking out as. Now the question is, like, is he a blue chip corner? Is he just a quality starting corner? Because right now, I don't know. Like, we don't know his ceiling yet. Sorry, my voice is still a little raw from. It's always gonna be a little raw on Mondays after a home game when I'm screaming my head off. So that was cool. That was cool to see in this game. Other things that are cool, like, there's so many things swimming in my head. I'm going to be all over the place in this show. So just give me some grace. I'm so excited about Byron Murphy. Like, can I just say I am so excited about Byron Murphy because we've talked about it. This is a guy that was an absolute cornerstone to not necessarily whether this defense was going to be good or not, because this defense was going to be good regardless. And he didn't even necessarily have to take a step. He could just be the player he was last year and get more snaps, and that would be good, right? But the ideal was that Byron Murphy would be more than he was last year and get more snaps, and the players around him would be playing well. And now you've got a guy that is one of the most valuable positions in the NFL. And that's not hyperbole. That is the market. Defensive tackles that can rush the passer and be stout against the run. Those guys are like $30 million a year plus players. They are hard to find. It is easier to find a franchise quarterback. And I'm not saying God tier Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen level quarterback, but I'm talking about a guy you can win a like a Jalen Hurts is a guy you can win a Super Bowl with. There's probably 15 of those guys in the NFL. You'd be lucky to find like 5 defensive tackles that are truly great pass rushers and can defend the run. They're just really, really rare. Seahawks might have found one. They might have found one. And look, part of what got me so excited about Byron Murphy coming out of school, one was just watching the guy play. T'Vondre Sweat was the one that got all the attention at Texas. He was the All-American. He was this massive dude. And I would watch Texas play, and T'Vondre Sweat would ask out because he was too exhausted. He wasn't in good enough shape. I would watch the way other teams would do their blocking, and it was Byron Murphy who they were doubling, and it was Byron Murphy who was wreaking havoc on a regular basis. You go back and watch the Huskies game against Byron Murphy's Texas Longhorns. Murphy was the guy that was giving that really good Huskies offensive line all they could handle. T'Vondre Sweat was not a big factor in that game. And then I looked at the underlying metrics for Byron Murphy. His pressure rate for an interior lineman he's one of the few interior linemen that had a pressure rate. I think it was like above 20%. I'd have to go back and look, but he was in a small list of defensive tackles that had pressure rates that high. And there were guys like Christian Barmore. There were guys like Dex, like they were the guys that play that position that are really valuable players. And then last year, the counting stats weren't there, but I've done the show. You can go back and find the Byron Murphy show I did this offseason where I went through the underlying metrics, and it was like, this guy was the 7th highest pass rush win rate in true pass sets among defensive tackles as a rookie. He just didn't get many chances. Well, all of that preamble is to say Byron Murphy through 3 weeks, he has the 4th most pressures of any defensive tackle in football. That is worth smiling about, folks. Byron Murphy has 12 pressures through 3 weeks. And one of the cool things, I talked to Byron, last week in the locker room and wherever. And one of the things he said was, that game against the Steelers just let him feel like, okay, I can do this. There's another level I can reach. And now that I've got 1.5 sacks, I've had that kind of game, I can build on that. Well, he had 4 pressures in that Steelers game. He had 5 pressures in the Saints game. So he followed it up. And the sack he got was a great, legit sack, stayed in his rush lane, pushed his guy back, got off the block, and brought Rattler down. And bringing down quarterbacks has not been an easy thing for the Seahawks defense, despite the fact that they've been very good in pressuring quarterbacks. They have not been very good in actually getting them down. So I think any sack is a good sack. And to have that come from your defensive tackle is huge. So I love that. I also will point out, just because I mentioned win rate, he's got the 7th highest win rate among defensive tackles in true pass set in the NFL so far. He's got a 25% pass rush win rate in true pass sets. That is higher than Dexter Lawrence. That is higher than Kenny Clark. It's higher than Javon Hargrave. It's higher than Kobe Turner, Christian Barmore, higher than Calais Campbell, higher than Leonard Williams, higher than Milton Williams, higher than Cam Hayward, higher than Chris Jones. Yes, higher than Chris Jones, higher than Jalen Carter. Like, to give you some idea, Jalen Carter has got a 15% win rate. Chris Jones has got a 16% win rate. Byron Murphy's got a 25% win rate. That's good. That's really, really good. So that's exciting. And then you look at, well, you know what? Gosh darn it, the edges. They still have 0 sacks. What's going on with the edge rush? Well, let's take a look at that. What if I told you that Derek Hall has the 11th highest win rate of any edge rusher in the NFL at 27.6%. So he's winning at an even higher rate than Byron Murphy. Well, 25% is very high for a defensive tackle, so for what it's worth. But Derek Hall is just behind Jared Verse. Like, Jared Verse has a 32% win rate. That's very good. Derek Hall's at 28%, essentially. And despite the fact that he is, like, we're all seeing it, he is making an impact in these games. Of the 17 players that are the tops among edge rushers in win rate, Derek Hall's the only one that doesn't have a sack. And you could read that as, oh man, that maybe the win rate's misleading. I don't read it that way. That's not typically the way to read win rate. Pressure rates are more reliable and stable game to game versus sacks, which come and go. I read this as the process is there. He is doing his job. He is being effective. And the sacks are going to come. So I see this comment from Matt McManus, who's been a member for a while and a supporter of the show. He says, Hall was blatantly held on a lot of snaps yesterday. The amount of times I see Derek Hall kind of like throwing his hands up so that refs shouldn't even see that he's trying to move and he's being held. No call. Yeah, it was very frustrating. So that's good news, I think. Guess what? Boye Mafe is also top 20. So Boye Mafe ranks 18th in pass rush win rate and true pass sets. He's at 25.8%. So despite the fact that you have 2 edge rushers that have a combined 0 sacks, some of the underlying metrics imply that better days are ahead in terms of those sack numbers. I'll also just say, if you watched the way that the Saints came out to try to play that game, Kellen Moore, their coach, was essentially waving the white flag from the beginning against the pass rush. They were getting rid of the ball in like a second. Like, it was super fast. There's no real opportunity for the pass rush to get home in those situations. And the guys are going to have to just fight through that, not get frustrated, and keep going. At the same time, there are moments where quarterbacks are still escaping the pocket and escaping pressure, and they do have to get more, like when there is a straight drop back, they do have to get some more quick wins and some straight, like, just sacks. Like, they need that. If you want to be a truly dominant defense, you need that. So for me, that's probably like, if I'm looking critically at the Seahawks defense, And you might be like, what are you talking about? This is the second best scoring defense in the NFL. They've allowed 17 points or less in every game this season for the first time since 2013. Like, they've got guys at pretty much every level playing really well. How can you criticize? Not criticizing. But if I'm looking for how do they get to the next level where they're not just a top 10 or top 5 defense in like the metrics that matter, but maybe the best defense in football, which is in their, like, that's in their DNA. They have the ability to become the best defense in football. And it's not just the players on the field, it's the coach who is orchestrating it. That combination has the potential to be the best in football this year. Not next year, not 2 years from now, this year. But for that to happen, there's a few things that have to change. One, they've got to get the quarterback on the ground more often. And to give you like a number to think about there. So if you look at the Seahawks, you could look at the Seahawks from a few different ways. If you look at their pressure rate, and this is Pro Football Reference, different sites have different pressure rates. The Seahawks have the third highest pressure rate in the NFL. But they only have 6 sacks. Like, they just are toward the bottom third of the league in sack rate. So they're not getting sacks, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is there's some leaky yards out there. This is the 20th ranked team in success rate against the pass. So teams are finding ways to move the ball down the field to sustain drives through the air. The run defense, awesome. No notes. Keep it up. In fact, I'll give you some things you guys can talk about or think about on that in a second as we kind of all just savor this happy moment we're in. But the rush defense generally very, very solid. But that pass defense, it's not giving up big plays. So it's not giving up explosives necessarily, but it is letting teams kind of dink and dunk their way down the field. And even yesterday, you can think back to, there were moments where Kobe Bryant multiple times had diagnosed the play correctly, fired his gun, ran into the backfield, and had a player dead to rights for what should have been a loss. He missed both tackles. I'm not criticizing Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's great. But he would himself say he should have made those plays. Instead, the guy breaks that tackle, and in both cases, those became either first downs or plays that led to eventual first downs, right? So those are the things that the defense has to shore up. So you cannot be 20th in drop back success rate, allowing almost a 50% success rate through the air. Can't do it. So I think that's probably the place that if I'm Mike McDonald and I'm that defense, I'm like, okay, why are they being successful? Partially it's this pass rush not getting home. Partially it is us not diagnosing and tackling properly in some of this quick game stuff where they're getting some yards after the catch. I think those things are correctable. That's not like, oh man, we've got this player that's getting picked on and we don't know what to do about it. It's not that. And it's not, oh man, we don't have the talent that we need in this certain spot. The only thing that I'd say would potentially fit into that category is I still don't think we know yet whether or not the Seahawks have sufficient edge rush. Like, I told you the numbers with Mafe and Hall and why I'm optimistic there, but that's still a projection. We cannot yet say that the edge rush has been good enough. And so that might be a limitation, a talent limitation. It's possible that they just don't have the edge rusher that they need to take that next step. I'm not there yet, but I think that that's a totally reasonable question to at least ask at this point. Offensively, I got a lot to say about that. I am really impressed by what I've seen from Clint Kubiak and Sam Darnold. Both of those guys, they deserve a ton of credit for what they've done. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. And that makes me think of something that I think you guys are going to get a kick out of. So let me share it with you. Hey, folks. I'm guessing you could see me, but I cannot see you because I am wearing the best sleep mask out there on the market, the Manta Sleep Mask. It is 100% blackout. I cannot see a thing. And one of the cool things with this model, this is the Manta Sound Sleep Mask. It's got these really cool Bluetooth speakers that adjust right over your ears, connects to your phone. You can play music, you can play white noise, whatever you like. There could be a 49ers fan right next to you. Doesn't matter. And let's face it, sometimes during the football season, you just need to recover. You need to take a nap. You need to block out the world. The Manta Sleep Mask is the best thing to do it. And if you use my code HAWKS, you will get 10% off your purchase over at Manta Sleep. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't look at other sleep masks. Manta Sleep is the best. Buy it. You won't regret it. I knew you guys are going to love it. I'm telling you, if you don't already know this, like, sleep masks are the best. I didn't know this until probably like 5 years ago, but this little bad boy here, you put that on, 100% blackout, you will sleep better than you've ever slept before. And if you've got maybe a snorer in bed with you or something, the Bluetooth speakers for white noise is great. So love it. Highly recommend it. I put the link in the chat. I'll put it in the description of the video. Code HAWKS gets you a good deal. And I'm always here to help folks get sleep because we need it. We definitely need it. We need to recover from these games. So offense. And who else is being slept on, right? Sam Darnold is the number 1 graded passer in the NFL by PFF. Now, everyone's going to always be like, PFF, who cares? What is PFF? Their grades are always stupid. Well, okay, let's just look at last year's PFF grades for the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and we could decide, like, is this a good list or is it a stupid list? Last year, number 1 graded passer, Lamar Jackson. Number 2, Joe Burrow. Number 3, Josh Allen. Number 4, Justin Herbert. Number 5, Jaden Daniels. Number 6, Baker Mayfield. Number 7, Patrick Mahomes. Does that sound like a silly list of quarterbacks being the top 7 graded quarterbacks? Like, passes the smell test for me this year. Number 1 graded passer, Sam Darnold. Number 2, Dak Prescott. Number 3, Matt Stafford. Number 4, Josh Allen. Number 5, Daniel Jones, which is wild. That's the world we're living in, where Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones are 2 of the top 5 graded passers in the NFL. Interestingly, Kyler Murray, number 6. We'll have to dig into that a little bit more when we get into the preview. We're still looking backwards, not ready to look forward yet. Tied with Kyler Murray is Justin Herbert, and then Jordan Love. So I think that passes the smell test for me too. And I think, honestly, and this is going to come across as Drew Lock shade, and I don't mean it to be, but I feel like you could see the difference even when Drew Lock was in there. Drew Lock in his only few snaps threw what should have been a pick. Sam Darnold has one turnover-worthy play through 3 weeks. This is a guy that last year, in what was supposed to be like all about Kevin O'Connell and that he was the reason Sam Darnold was good, Sam Darnold had the 2nd highest turnover-worthy play rate of any quarterback that played enough snaps to qualify for this look. So he was tied with Matt Stafford with a 3.7% turnover-worthy play rate. Now, in this season, he has got the fourth lowest turnover worthy play rate, 1.2%. His decision making has been impeccable. Now, we'll see if that lasts. We can all have questions about it and who are you going to play and all that stuff. I'm actually going to talk about that in a second because the schedule defensively does turn tougher. And that is not something we should ignore. But you can only play who's in front of you. And Matt Stafford has been making good decisions. He's been getting rid of the ball quickly. His time to throw, as a matter of fact, let's look at that. After being one of the slowest time to throws last year, he is the third fastest time to throw in the NFL, 2.58 seconds. Only Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers are getting rid of the ball more quickly than Sam Darnold. By the way, relative to the pass rush question before, Spencer Rattler is the fifth fastest time to throw in the NFL. So yeah, really hard to get two guys that are getting rid of the ball that quickly. And because he's getting rid of the ball quickly and he's making good decisions with when he's getting rid of the ball and who he's throwing to, the Seahawks, Sam Darnold has a 9 yards per attempt. He is averaging 9 yards per attempt. The Seahawks are number one in the NFL in explosive play rate. If you could have designed the absolute perfect offense, passing wise at least, you would get a lot of yards, is more often than possible. Like whenever you're passing, you get a lot of yards and you do it very, very quickly so that pass rush is not really an issue and you're getting explosives. Generally, you have to choose one or the other because it takes a while for a play to develop a longer way down the field to get an explosive play. The longer you have to drop back to let that play develop, the more chance a pass rush has to get home. So when you're in a situation where the Seahawks are now with one of the fastest time to throws in the NFL and the best explosive play rate, passing play rate in the NFL, that is a very, very good place to be. So Clint Kubiak gets a lot of praise for doing that. How many times have we talked about the fact that it took Mike Macdonald 8 games to really get his defense installed in Baltimore? It took him 8 games to get the personnel and defense installed right in Seattle. It's only fair to say that Clint Kubiak and John Benton and Rick Dennison and those guys with a new quarterback and new receivers and a young offensive line, we're going to take at least half a season and maybe a full season before they started to really click. And I'm not saying they're clicking full speed now, but these kinds of numbers and this kind of level of performance, I don't know anyone who could have reasonably expected they were going to do this quickly against anybody. And you can say, it's the Saints and the Saints suck. Did you watch the Saints play the 49ers and the Cardinals? I did. They were pretty tough. Like, those teams had to work for what they got. And I also saw the Seahawks with Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and JSN and everybody last year lose to the Giants without Malik Neighbors at home. So, I just think haters can be haters. But if you look at this, I don't know how you can say that this passing game is anything other than significantly better than what could have reasonably been expected at this point. You've got a rookie 5th-round receiver who now has 3 touchdowns through 3 weeks. In fact, I wanted to look at this, and give me a second. You guys can come on this little ride with me, but I want to see where is Tory Horton in terms of touchdowns among rookies, right? So let me look this up real quick. But you've got Tory Horton, who was a question mark. You've got Cooper Kupp, who was a question mark. And I think both of them are performing better than most expected. Now, I was definitely in the, what would you call it? I was in the engine. I was the conductor of the Tory Horton hype train during training camp. I was telling you guys after every practice report, like, the guy's just making plays and he's making them against the number one defense. And then I had Reek Woolen on, and Reek's like, dude, that guy's making those plays. And it's not just against second teamers. He's making them against us, and we're really good. And now here we go. I mean, he was electric in that punt return. And now he's got 2 receiving touchdowns in 2 games, which is great. And let me look up here. Where is all touchdowns? All touchdowns. He's been a playmaker, and that's exactly what you needed from that position. So, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna let me do. Oh, there it is. Touchdowns. Cool. All right. We're gonna go this year. We're going to go with a player that was drafted this year. And let's go. Let's see what we got. Who's got the most touchdowns of all the rookies so far this season? Well, there's 2 guys. Emeka Egbuka, a receiver drafted number 19 overall, who is one of the top graded receivers in this class, and Tory Horton, who was drafted in the 5th round by your Seattle Seahawks. So pretty good, right? And then Cooper Kupp, I thought that Cooper Kupp again yesterday had another explosive reception. We talked about how was this receiving group going to be explosive enough, dynamic enough? And there was a lot of questions about, well, DK Metcalf left, and do they have that explosive element? Well, what if I told you that JSN leads the NFL in explosive catches? That's 16 yards or more. What if I were to tell you that he has, I think, 9? Cooper Kupp has 5. DK Metcalf has 3. All right. AJ Barner has 2. And AJ Barner has only 6 targets on the season. So I don't know. Like, I'm hesitant to say this because it's going to seem really crazy, but I kind of feel this way. I don't know if the Seahawks would be better with DK Metcalf right now. That might seem like a really stupid thing to say, but seeing him drop passes, seeing, like, knowing what kind of force feeding you need to do when you've got a player like DK Metcalf, some of it's not even DK's fault necessarily, but this receiving group, including the tight ends, allows the offensive coordinator and the players to just kind of go where the read takes them. And the guys that are getting chances to make plays are making plays. That catch by AJ Barner yesterday was friggin' gorgeous. I mean, that was high level. That was a high level catch. And he's capable of stuff like that. He's got great hands. We haven't even really seen Elijah Arroyo get unlocked yet. That might take, maybe that takes 4, 5, 6 games. But it's very encouraging what's going on with the passing game. And, you know, I know we've got our troll that's always in our chat, talking about probably, well, the offensive line's giving up too much fast pressure. It's still a problem. But here's the thing. It's not any one thing that has to be working well. They have to complement each other. If you're getting rid of the ball quickly, the offensive line doesn't have to pass block as long, and that can be sustainable. If you can get rid of the ball quickly and still be explosive, you don't have to take longer drops. You don't have to force yourself. If you're able to work in play action and be productive on that, it also helps your offensive line. If you run the ball, not run the ball well, but if you run the ball, that takes more pass snaps off the list. So there's less chances for pressure and less chances for sacks and negative plays. So even though the Seahawks running offense has not been good, it just hasn't been good to this point. The fact that they are committing to running the ball is good. And every time they run the ball, guess what? You can't sack Sam Darnold. And you have to worry about, are you catching as a defensive lineman or are you rushing the passer? All of that factors in to give you these little edges that then combine to make for a functional passing offense. So I think there's room for improvement. I'm not saying everything's perfect. I think JSN has absolutely opened the door to blue chip status, all pro status. Like that's the level he's on. And Sam Darnold's playing like at least a Pro Bowl quarterback. And the juxtaposition for me about the talking heads that have been outside of Seattle all off season saying, I can't believe they went from Geno to Sam. And then they're like, oh, well, at least they can get out of the deal after 1 year. Like that's the thing they most commonly would say. It's like, I know they can get out of the deal after 1 year, so it's not that bad. Folks, it's the opposite. The fact that John Schneider got a 27-year-old franchise quarterback for a multi-year deal that is below market value, that's the headline. Not that they can get out of it. Is anyone thinking about, man, I hope Jalen Milroe can develop really quickly because Sam Darnold, he's not going to last past this year. That's like, maybe that narrative will come back. We are 3 games into the season and things could change dramatically, right? But as of now, I don't see why anybody would want anything but Sam Darnold to be your quarterback for the foreseeable future. That's amazing. Like, there are not many moments in NFL history where teams find true Pro Bowl level quarterback play available in free agency and for below market value. It doesn't happen. And I see people questioning franchise QB. I think people put different words on that. For me, franchise QB is someone that you can win a division with, win playoff games with, potentially, I think the quarterback that can win a Super Bowl, that's a question mark. I don't know that I certainly haven't seen Sam Darnold perform in a big game well enough to say that. But I have no doubt Sam Darnold's a better passer than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts brings different things. He's a much more of a running threat. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that aren't as good of a passer as Sam Darnold that have gone and been pretty successful. So, I put him in that category of one of the 15 quarterbacks out there that teams would be silly to move on from. You're not going to find better. Even if you wish you could get one of the guys that's ahead of them, you'd be silly to move on from. And oh, by the way, the quarterbacks in the college ranks that were supposed to be so great this season so far, it's not looking quite as good as it once did. If you haven't given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. Now would be a great time. Join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Make sure you do that. You get ad-free audio for this show, as well as access to the Discord channel where we're talking about all things all the time. It's a great place to get curated stuff about all sports and the NFL, especially. And there's a lot of good people over there. Maybe make some friends. And we all know more friends is good. If you have not already downloaded the Sleeper app, man, take a second and do that. It's a great app. I got it on my phone. It's fun and also a great way to keep up with your fantasy team. And you get live real-time updates and visualizations on stats. And now, if you use promo code HAWKS, you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. So, offensively, goodness for the most part. There are some issues. Like the run blocking is an issue. The run game in general is an issue. I thought Ken Walker had a nice game yesterday, despite the performance of the line. And when I look at this offensive line, I'm kind of like, there's a little good, there's a little not so good when you're getting at the run blocking. And I thought Robbie Oots had a really nice game yesterday. There were some blocks. He was just crushing dudes. And that's why I'm a little nervous about his status. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. But on the good news side, Gray Zabel had his highest graded game yesterday, for what it's worth. He had a 70.5 PFF grade, had a 75.9 pass block grade, and had a 66.6 run block grade. Good. That's good. Charles Cross had a 73.2 overall grade, 78.1 pass block grade, 69.3 run block grade. Good. Left side of the line doing their job. Jalen Sundell, mixed bag. 53.9 overall grade, 69.6 pass block grade, good. 51 run block grade, not so good. Abe Lucas, mixed bag. 56.1 overall grade, 73.2 pass block, which is great. 49.5 run block. And I'm worried there a little bit. Not because I think Abe Lucas is not a good run blocker, but he came on with an elbow injury to the practice report last week. He is wearing a big brace on his elbow. This was his first game playing with that. And if he's unable to drive people, if he's not able to get his hands and use the power of his arm to move people, this could be a thing that lingers for that team. And that's something to watch. For what it's worth, this was his lowest run blocking grade of the season. He had a 67.7 run block grade against the Steelers last week, now down to 49.5 this week. So that is something to keep an eye on. And then Anthony Bradford, guy I've been repping for sure, had a rough game. Now, I didn't see this. It didn't show up for me, but on second watch, I'll probably see it more. He has a 27.7 grade, 8.9 pass block grade, 33.5 run block. That, folks, is not good. And it is a far cry from what he had been up to that point. He had been their highest graded guard. He had been like the 15th highest graded guard in the league coming in. So this was, I'll have to ask him, what happened in this game? But it wasn't, at least by PFF standards, was not a good game for Anthony Bradford. Let's take a look where some of this might have occurred. He gave up 3 pressures, including a quarterback hit on 21 dropbacks. He gave up 2 pressures in true pass sets. So there's 4 true pass set pass block opportunities. He gave up pressures on 2 of them. That's not great. So I'll have to go back and watch that. Abe Lucas is the only one that gave up a pressure on a true pass set in this game, for what it's worth. Anthony Bradford's the only one that gave up more than 1 pressure in this game. So, the good news is the Seahawks were able to thrive this week without the best performance in that regard. But I still look back at this, and if you were to say the Seahawks were going to have given up 3 sacks in 3 weeks for the first time since 1997, and they were going to be 9th in the NFL in pressure rate allowed, I would have taken it. The other thing that I think is encouraging is they're actually 8th in the league in pressure rate allowed when they're in shotgun. Shotgun, in this case, is more interesting because that's generally an indicator you're going to pass. The Seahawks have been a much more pass-heavy team when they're in shotgun. So the defense knows that they're going to rush the passer, and the Seahawks are still 8th in pressure rate allowed in those situations. So let's I know the Josh Cashmans and others out there are going to jump on Anthony Bradford. I'm not, man. Like, I think this guy is in the best version of this offensive line. He's a part of it and he's playing well. So I'm going to give him some grace and hope that he can, round back into like what was looking like a more promising performance the first couple weeks of the season. But this wasn't to par, at least by this measure. Again, I didn't see this live as being a bad Anthony Bradford game, but again, I wasn't watching the TV copy and I could have absolutely missed things. The other thing I would kind of point out here is the Seahawks have played two not so great defenses the last 2 weeks, the Steelers and the Saints. I'll also say that it is worth noting that TJ Watt did have 2 sacks this week. Abe Lucas gave up none to him last week. But if you look at who the Seahawks have left to play, there's some tough defenses coming up. I don't like that. The way things are shaping up, they play the Vikings later down in the season, which is currently the second ranked defense by DVOA. They play the Jaguars in a few weeks. That's the 4th ranked defense by DVOA. I did not realize that. I have not done my Jaguars deep dive. I haven't watched a Jaguars game so far. Obviously, they'll have a game against the 49ers again at the end of the year. They're the 6th ranked defense. They play the Falcons, who are the 9th ranked defense by DVOA, which might surprise some people. They play the Colts, who are the 8th ranked defense by DVOA. They play the Commanders, who are the 10th ranked defense. They play the Bucks, who are the 11th. They play the Rams twice, who are 12th. They play the Cardinals twice, who are 13th. They play Carolina, who's 16th. They play Houston, which is 20th, which is kind of wild. Of all those teams, you would have thought Houston would have been the one that's tough. They really Tennessee's 29th. That's it. Like, they're playing good defenses pretty much the rest of the way, other than Tennessee and then maybe Houston. And I don't know if anyone feels like, oh yeah, Houston's a walk in the park with Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter and their cornerback who I'm spacing on. But anyway, it's not, the sledding's going to get rougher. And it starts this week. I'm not going to start my Arizona Cardinals preview. That'll come. But the Cardinals are good defensively. They're rugged. They've got good pass rush. They're really good against the run. That's going to be a game where they're going to have to bring it to come out of that with a win. And the Cardinals are going to know that they need this one. After dropping the game to the 49ers at home, they're going to absolutely know that they can't go 0-2 against 2 divisional opponents at home and have real hope that the season's going to be good. The Seahawks similarly feel like they can't go 0-2 in the division to start the year and hope things are going to go well for them. So it's going to be a really rugged battle. And, it sucks for the Cardinals that James Conner is lost for the year. That guy is amazing and has been their emotional leader. And I think their best offensive player, Marvin Harrison Jr., dropped a bunch of passes in this game and things are not looking good there. Kyler Murray still got his limitations. There's a lot of worry about the offense and Drew Petzing and the play calling. Like, there's a lot going on offensively that's not so great for the Cardinals, but defensively, things are looking pretty darn good. And I'll get into more of that later this week. I'll be down there for the game. We'll definitely do a post-game show. Hopefully I'll be able to get Evan and Jeff to join me for some of that. But it's a big week. It's a big week because you get this game against the Cardinals and then you've got a mini bye week and you welcome in the Bucks, who are a really good team, but very injured. And I think Mike Evans got hurt in this game as well. So, they'll have Tristan Wirfs back. They'll have Chris Godwin back most likely for that game. But the opportunity's there. The opportunity is there for the Seahawks to get this thing rolling and not just be a momentary blip against a really inferior opponent in the Saints. So right now, I just think I got to get back to the Byron Murphy thing for a second. I can't leave it. I haven't talked about run defense enough, and I want to look at this from a player perspective, and then I'll get into it to the overall team. So if you look from run defense and you look at which defensive tackles have the most run stops in the NFL, Leonard Williams is tied for third with 6. Byron Murphy is right behind him with 5. And then you go, and I don't think they have a stop rate. They do. Let's make sure they're getting enough snaps. Stop rate, Leonard Williams is 11th. So not as dominant. Byron Murphy's down there at 28th. These are at least by PFF grades or PFF stats, I should say. If you go to edge players, DeMarcus Lawrence ranks 2nd in the NFL among edge players in run stop rate, 12%, right behind Byron Young of the Rams. After that, you got to go a while for the next Seahawk on the run stop rate. Derek Hall, all the way down at 48th in run stop rate. Is that really the next Seahawk? Yeah, it is. That's not ideal. But DeMarcus Lawrence is doing what he was brought in to do, which is good. And I mean, I just think this overall defense is doing what it needs to be I don't know if it's I would say it's definitely a contending defense, but I don't know if it's a number 1 overall defense yet for the reasons we talked about before. All right. What have I missed? I'm sure there's a bunch of things I've missed. I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'm probably going to get some food here in a bit. And then I got to get to the VMAC to do press conference with Mike McDonald. And then we're going to have a little bit different schedule this week. So I will do show tomorrow. Then tomorrow night at 5 will be, so I think I'll have Matt Hasselbeck tomorrow, as we normally do on Tuesdays. I'll double check that with Matt. Then we'll have the Seahawks Collective at 5. And then at 7 tomorrow night, we're going to do Real Hawk Talk with Evan Hill and Jeff Simmons. So it's going to be on Tuesday, and it's going to be at 7 p.m. And then Wednesday, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm flying out to Arizona that day, probably going to do a show in the afternoon. I'm going to try to get Bo Brack from Phoenix Sports on, and we'll talk about the Cardinals and preview that game. And then we'll figure out, I think the next day we'll figure out with Mike Sando when I'm flying back how to do all that. So a lot of stuff, a little bit of a crazy week. So bear with me. If you haven't, click like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified. Now is the best time to do it. That way you'll always know where I'm going to be. And yeah, let's go. Seahawks 2-1. Biggest win at home for a few years. First time they've won back-to-back games of 14+ points since 2022. So it's been a minute, and this is the highest point differential the Seahawks have had after 3 games since 2013. Lots of good stuff out there. Lots of good stuff for the Seahawks. Got to get this win this week. It will not feel satisfying, and no amount of cope is going to be okay if you don't come out of there with a win. You got to find a way to get this win in Arizona. Looking forward to seeing what happens. All right. Take care. I'm Brian M. Hauser. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings.